Today is April 13th, 2019, and you're listening to episode 1 of Manchild and the Old Guy. He's a man-child, a bearded 20-something, and I'm the old guy, cynical Gen Xer. This is your intergenerational podcast where he discusses pop culture, faith, politics, and whatever he finds interesting, and I just complain. Broadcasting from the basement because that is where Mom lets us.
Good morning and welcome. I am the man-child, the spokesperson, and the speaking head for all Generation Zoomers. Welcome to the glorious podcast show.
Well, it's a great day outside. Wonderful weather.
Well, it's better than yesterday. I mean, it was like 30 degrees in the middle of April.
Yeah, that's true.
But I'm going to KC on Sunday evening. It'll be like 70 degrees. So
yeah, because you're going to go see the girl child.
Yes, I'm going to go see my girl child. That sounds weird coming out.
It's not your girl child.
My girlfriend.
It is the girl child.
All right, yes, my girlfriend. I'm going to go see my girlfriend. On Tuesday, it will be our 1-year dating anniversary. You've told me plenty of times not to say just anniversary because we're not married.
Well, you're not engaged to be married.
Right, but, it's still an anniversary. It's something. All
yeah,
right.
So what do you got on the agenda today, man-child?
On the agenda today, we got a whole bunch of dumb stuff. We got issues with California wanting to ban some plastic, which isn't new for them. We're going to talk about some possible weird new gun control measures, largest planes flying, and, let's see. What else? What was it that you had that was weird at Walmart?
Oh, yeah. This is from Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and let me read a little bit of the story here. It's at a Walmart. The headline on the Fox News website is "Chaos at Walmart as woman performs karate. Son exposes himself. Dog steals food, police say." And so you got a picture of these two indigents. The mom says she's 46, but man, she looks like she could be 70. And the Eau Claire Police Department said on social media that the officers responded to a call that a woman, Lisa Smith, 46, and her dog, Bo, shoplifted items from the store. The woman's son, 26-year-old Benny Vaughn, was causing chaos in the store as well. Police learned that Smith came into the shop with Bo unleashed, with the dog immediately running off towards customers while the woman was pulling apart displays in the store and placing them in her cart. And after being told to leave the store, the woman began showing off her karate moves in the parking lot to fend off police officers. The dog tried to flee the crime scene unsuccessfully, and a box of Jiffy cornbread muffin mix was in his mouth. And after a brief fight with officers, Smith was released. As a last-ditch attempt, she tried to kick a window out of a police car. Her son, meanwhile, was getting fully naked and began exposing himself to other customers at the store. What? He then tried to cover himself with new clothes from the store without intending to pay for them. And after officers confronted him, he threatened to run them over with his scooter, prompting the police to use physical force to stop the scooter and arrest the man. I can only imagine that somebody just stuck his arm out and knocked him over.
Wham! Yeah. Just whack him right
yeah.
off. Is this one of those rented scooters?
They don't show a picture of the scooter, but the story does say the only character to get off scot-free is Bo the dog. Bo was caught by officers in the store and brought to the Humane Association. The dog was not charged. We issued him a warning for the theft, police said in a statement.
Well, can I get that dog? You know how long it's got to take to train a dog like that to be a thief and know how to get away from the cops?
Well, not only a thief, but to go directly for the cornbread and take the cornbread out of the store.
Hey, that's impressive. But this story, when what was it? The son that stole clothes to try and change into to look different. That was the son.
Well, it wasn't that he wanted to look different. He got naked in the store and then tried to steal the clothes. So he's a little off his rocker.
It reminds me of the story that was on the news a while ago, where this guy goes into a bank. I think it was in Florida. Everything happens in Florida. He walks into a Florida with a ski mask on, like a yellow polo and just like khakis or something. Holds the gun up to the teller, and they dump all the money in his bag. He walks out to his car, takes the mask off, then walks back in with the same bag and asks to deposit it in his account.
Well, that takes a lot of cojones to do something like that.
Well, he sounds really stupid, honestly. I
mean, and why would you even think that would work?
Well, drugs, most likely.
Yeah, And
That's why we should legalize all drugs.
Yeah. Well, I am a libertarian, and in concept I agree with that. However, I don't trust the American populace, because in America we do everything to the nth degree. We don't know how to moderate ourselves. So you legalize drugs, and it's going to cause a lot of chaos.
No, I agree with that. I just did for my own podcast, the Happy Cabbage Podcast. I did this whole thing.
Shameless plug.
Hey, you know what? I don't get paid to do it, so it helps. I did a 2-hour show where I went through every one of Andrew Yang's policies. He's this new Democrat guy running for office, and his main policy he's going off of that everyone really likes is his UBI, or as he calls it, the Freedom Dividend, which is where every American receives $1,000 a month to do things with. And one of his policies is that we need to combat the opioid crisis, and the next policy is we need to legalize all opioids. I don't know how you're gonna fix that problem. If it was like you just had a bunch of people that are recreational users of opioids.
So to solve the opioid crisis, he wants to legalize all opioids.
Yeah.
And what's the logic behind that?
I think what the idea they're trying to get across is to have it regulated, so then you have to go to these opioid dens and you have to purchase it, you have to have an ID, whatever. Eventually it'll stop the black market because it's not lucrative enough, or it's it's safer to get the I don't know, Xanax, Xannies, is that opioids?
No.
All right, Vicodin's an opioid.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, you can go get your Vickies over at
Obviously, you can tell that we're really great drug users.
Hey man, not anymore. Haven't been in high school in a long time, dog.
Well, that is the stupidest idea I've ever heard. It hasn't worked out well in countries where they've, tried to give out methadone and just had parks to give out drugs and let people get high if they want to. That's a very dumb idea, number one. And B, the concept of legalizing drugs is always a ploy by the government to tax something new.
Yeah.
And so those kind of taxes on recreational use kind of things, I think, is always a tax on the poorest of Americans because they can least afford it, just like the tax on alcohol and the tax on cigarettes. So,
yeah, when I was living in Canada, they had needle parks. I can't remember what they were really called. They were supposed to have like these big hedges, so you can't see past it, metal benches and all this kind of stuff, where you can go and shoot up, and you're supposed to dispose of the needles in these bins, and then you pull out clean ones, just so you're not spreading STDs. Well, what really happens, no one takes care of the hedges, so you can just walk downtown, and you can see people just shooting up in the corner, in the middle of the park, and then they drop all their needles in the grass, so there's all these reports of kids that just are playing in the grass, and then, Mom, I got poked by this rusty needle. Oh, great, you got an STD, son. Along with your hepatitis, here's a, not a steroid shot, what do you call that thing?
Tetanus shot.
Tetanus shot, there you go. Yeah, so we got all those kind of issues in Canada. So, yeah, maybe that works out there. They like it, maybe it's fun.
Yeah, I just played the fanfare because that's so stupid. Those kind of dumb things are moronic, and it does not help our culture. Whether it's in Canada or if it's coming to the United States, it's not going to help us either.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, that's. I think we should just let states do whatever. If Texas want to legalize blow and hookers, but no other state wants to do it, cool. Move down there. It's supposed to be its own little country. You go do your thing down there. Just don't do it all over. If I don't want it in my state, in my city, don't.
Yeah.
Don't
well,
do it in my
that's
place.
the way the United States was put together, so that each state could do its own thing. And the federal government's not supposed to have such strong reign over the individual states. Each state is supposed to be an incubator for best practices that the federal government could employ, but the federal government's not supposed to reign over each individual state, which unfortunately they try to do on a consistent basis.
Well, that's a lovely fantasy you have about what our country is supposed to be.
It's not a fantasy.
Well, it's definitely not reality.
Not anymore. However, more and more people want to give power to the federal government, which is not where all the power should be. Power should be at the states.
Yep, I agree with that. But it's like the Democrat-Republican thing where it's two sides of the same coin. in a sense. It doesn't really matter which party you agree with at the end, but everyone just wants bigger government.
Which is why I disaffiliated from the Republican Party some time ago, because they had control of the House and the Senate and did absolutely nothing, and the national debt continues to rise. When I looked at it this morning, which I often do, at least once or twice a week, we are at $24 trillion, $181,000 per taxpayer we owe right now in the national debt. I don't have $181,000. I don't know if you do.
Not even close.
Not even close. So, anyway, I don't know where all this money is going to come from, but we're making sure that we're mortgaging our great-grandchildren right now. So
yeah, and we're going to get another tenfold what we have in debt now if Andrew Yang was president.
I don't know. Trump's running up some pretty big deficits right now.
Yep.
In fact, this year, the federal deficit is 15% more than it was last year. And you would think a businessman would say, hey, let's stop all this.
It's a bad idea. Let's not do that. This is a huge no-no.
Well, the federal employee roster continues to expand. They keep hiring more and more people. He's supposed to be cutting back on government, which is something I didn't trust him to do from the beginning, which is another reason I did not vote for the guy.
Well, I voted for him.
Yeah, and how's that working out for you?
Well, I had someone draw some private parts on my old Chevy Tahoe, and I had some magnet bumper stickers that people cut up and threw around the car, and I got bullied in high school because I voted for Trump. But in the end, I was victorious because he won, and so it's worked out all right. I have no social life. I have no friends. My one and only friend is my girlfriend, and I'm currently unemployed. So
yes. But hey, you voted for Trump.
Yeah, life's going great, guys. It's going really good. I'm feeling great right now.
It was better than voting for the criminal.
Well, I mean, aren't they all really criminals in the end?
Well, once you become a politician, doesn't seem like life sheds blessings on you, except in your financial bank account. So every politician that I know of that has been in office for more than a couple seasons ends up being a millionaire, even the great and wonderful Bernie Sanders.
Well, he's got like 4 lake houses, doesn't he? And his wife just avoided like some...
He doesn't have 4 lake houses, but he does own 3 houses. I believe one of them is on a lake.
Close enough for me. I mean, I don't even have a lake house.
True, but you are $181,000 in debt to the federal government.
Great, and I haven't even had student loans.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I know we talked about this earlier, but do you think someone that makes $275,000 a year qualifies them for being very rich?
It does according to the federal government standards, but in practicality, absolutely not.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you're living in like some little town outside of Omaha, Nebraska, I think, that's a very large amount of money to be making every year. Now, if you're living in the dead end of Chicago, not so much.
Well, it's still the average family of 4 in Chicago makes like somewhere around $61,000 or $62,000.
Yeah.
But hey, out of 50 states and the Washington District of Columbia, Washington D.C., Illinois is 51st in tax burden.
I saw you posted that on Facebook. What is it, including Puerto Rico or something?
No, it includes Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia. So, as far as the best tax state to the worst, Illinois is 51st.
I saw that California was one of the best. One of the best ones. I saw that. That's what it put on there.
Well,
I was looking at a little dubious. I had Nebraska pretty low.
Well, 47. But you also have to remember that they were doing it statistically compared to the tax burden compared to the population or per capita. So you look at, which makes Illinois even look worse because there's only 12 million people in Illinois and like 6 million of them live in the Chicago metro area. But you go from there to Nebraska, where I don't even think Nebraska is top 2 million people yet. The Omaha metro area has about 1 million people, 1.2 million, I think, in the statistical area. So the tax burden for Nebraska of this huge state, which is at least half the size of California, if not 2/3 the size of California, square miles wise, is the entire tax burden of that state is placed on 1.8 million people. In California, you have something like 20 some million people, and so you have a high tax burden, but it's spread out among a lot more people. Therefore, they rank higher because they have so many people. But that doesn't mean that it's a low tax state, because you have to look at the way they gathered the statistics. And in this case, because they're comparing it to the population, it doesn't quite work out as well.
Okay, so there should be a couple disclaimers in that.
Well, they are buried in the story if you go through and look at it all. And you actually go back to the source. Of course, if you look at the story as it's repeated in like the Huffington Post or some other websites, they don't dig down to the bottom, and they only say, see, Florida's not the top, Texas isn't either, California's not so bad, Illinois is still really bad. But if you go to the original story, which comes through Yahoo Finance and a couple other individuals who added to the story, that you see that this really isn't the case. All that being said, it's still very expensive to live in a large state with a small populace.
Yeah. It's a little more fun sometimes.
It's because, you look out in the panhandle of Nebraska, and there's a whole lot of roads out there. Not a lot of people, but the roads still have to be fixed. Even whether or not the cows are driving on them, I don't know. But you'll see like states like Montana and Wyoming aren't as high taxed as Nebraska, but they also don't have a large city incorporated in them. And Omaha's, for the Midwest, Omaha's a pretty large city. It's obviously not Chicago, but...
Well, the Omaha metro area, I looked it up, is 1.3 million currently. Yeah. And for those listening are going to get, well, if Omaha City only has 975,345 people living in it, there's a reason we always count the Omaha metro areas, because a lot of the places around us use the Omaha City's resources. Our cops, our fire department, some of our power districts. Most of the stuff we use, they pull away from the Omaha City themselves. They do have their own resources, but a lot of them use like the Omaha Police Department.
Yes. Now, we're not broadcasting from Omaha, but
sadly.
But both of us were born and raised there, so it's kind of close to our heart. Of course, the county south of Omaha, Sarpy, doesn't have the same tax structure, which is why lots of big businesses build buildings there, like PayPal and such.
Yeah, it's like PayPal. What is it? At 680?
Well, it's off I-80,
just
across the county line.
Yeah, you'll go up, and then there's like all these businesses, and then it just stops on the interstate, and then it's just like houses.
Yeah.
When you get into the Douglas County.
But all the people live in Omaha, but work in Sarpy County. So
yeah, which is the way it's going to be out here at some point, where, taxes are lower over here, but they're paying more over in Illinois.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you don't know, we're in the Quad Cities, the wannabe Chicago, wannabe Omaha kind of area.
Well, it's Quad Cities. It's a special place. I wouldn't say they want to be anything but Quad Cityans.
Man, when I was driving trucks for the Salvation Army, I was going all around the Quad Cities. Everyone here really wants to be Chicago. Like, everyone's got this Chicago spirit with them. I don't know if that's just because there's a bunch of people in Illinois, but everyone's got this Chicago spirit with them.
That's because so many people got sick of living in Chicago that they moved to the Quad Cities.
Yeah, well, maybe. But, there's all this stuff like, we want to be Chicago. The Cubs. The Bears.
Well, but you have Chicago Bear fans. You have St. Louis Cardinal fans here. You've got people who hate baseball. Bears fans. Yeah, whatever. It is what it is. But people in the Quad Cities, it's kind of like you are with your brothers and your sister. You guys fight and argue all the time, but if somebody messes with one of you, then you all like jump on them like a pride of lions together.
It depends on the situation.
So, Quad Cities is kind of that way. A lot of people claim other places kind of as home, but if you mess with the Quad Cities, the entire Quad Cities kind of fights back.
Yeah, it's a homey place. People like to nest here. All right, we need to switch on to some of our other topics. So we got California moving to ban on little shampoo conditioner bottles from hotels. If you're not a stranger to the news at all, you know that places like Starbucks have stopped offering straws with their drinks. And honestly, I'm for it for Starbucks because the new lids they have, I like better than their straws. And you can never get that whip on top of your frappe when you have the straw. But with these new lids, you can.
I don't go to that place.
Drink. Well, I don't go there unless I got a gift card, and even then, it still makes me sick.
It costs way too much money.
Well, that's why I go and you guys give me gift cards. But yeah, so places like Starbucks and things like that are doing that. That comes from California. They got this big superstition about the plastics we're producing. So if you go to California, it's easy to see bamboo straws, not plastic ones. But they're going to start removing all those free little shampoo and conditioner bottles that we steal from hotels. I don't know a single person that doesn't take those when they leave.
Well, the story is that this is only in committee in California. It hasn't even made it to their full legislature yet. However, they claim that they can save these tiny plastic bottles from even being used anywhere in California. I guess they're stating that there's almost 10,000 hotels statewide that use these tiny bottles. The big misnomer here is the whole recycling deal is just a big scam.
Yeah, because it all comes down to making money. Even NPR's Planet Money did a podcast. They talk about recycling, and they just are pretty blatant when they interview these guys in New York that run all the recycling. And it's just that, well, we don't do plastic bags anymore because no one buys plastic bags. Or you don't do this metal, you don't do that because no one's buying it, so you can't recycle it. That's why you can't recycle certain things. It's just because we just sell it off to China, but now China can develop all their own stuff. They don't need to buy our recycled crap. So we're going to have to start selling it somewhere else.
Well, the thing is that the U.S. has been selling all of this recyclable stuff to China for years. And that's what actually made it profitable.
Yeah, they're not buying it anymore.
Because American labor is expensive. And now everybody's sending their stuff to landfills, which is perfectly fine. If you really do the research, landfills don't take up that much space. The city of Omaha, for instance, has huge methane pumps that comes out of the main landfill there. They power part of the city off the methane that comes out of the landfills in Omaha. So it's actually, in one way, all of these recyclables and garbage that we're throwing away is actually a renewable resource.
Better than windmills. But, like in Miami, huge chunks of the city, especially from like the 80s till now, have just been huge landfill portions, and they just steamroll over them. They put a special algae, I can't remember what chemical it is, but it just eats at things that aren't really biodegradable. Yeah, then they just plant grass on top of it.
Yeah, in some places they put a concrete cap on top of stuff and then put 20, 30 feet of dirt on top of the landfill and then make it into, usable land. A lot of neighborhoods are built on top of landfills and they don't even know that.
Yeah, you have a beautiful hill that wasn't there, made by God.
Yeah.
Made by man.
Yeah, so it's not that big a deal, but, in California, this is one of those laws that's virtue signaling. They want to show to everybody that we're doing something.
Yeah.
And it's really nothing.
Well, it's just like those morons you see walk around with the Patagonia or North Face stuff, thinking that, well, I bought this, so this makes me green and better for the environment. No, the reality is, if you want to help the environment, stop buying crap. The more stuff you buy, the more companies produce, meaning the more trash you're going to throw out. Reduce, reuse, recycle. There's 3 steps in it because that's how it's supposed to be used. You have reduce, stop buying stuff, just keep using something until you can't use it again. And then when you can't use it, reduce, reuse. There you go. Almost forgot. Reuse it. So that's where the hand-me-down comes from.
You came through the modern-day educational system and you can't remember this?
No, I didn't pay attention. I was too busy in high school doing stupid stuff. Yeah, so then you have reuse, which is where hand-me-downs. I have my brother Donald's old calculator, what he used like in the early 2000s. I still have that calculator, the old Casio. It still works.
It's a Casio.
Yeah, maybe the first ever electronic calculator was made by them. But you reuse that until it doesn't work anymore, and then you recycle it. The things you can't recycle, throw in the trash. But people's idea is, well, I got a plastic bottle, I'm just gonna recycle it. Well, that's not gonna last forever. It's at some point you just can't recycle it. It just goes in a landfill.
The great thing about plastic is it's made out of petroleum.
Yeah.
And if you do it right, you can burn it in a power plant and it becomes a fuel. And there's very little ash or tar that's left over once you burn plastic. It actually gets consumed pretty well. And you can filter out the stuff that goes up the chimney just like they do at a coal burning power plant. So if we really wanted to get with it and get rid of the plastics, we should use all single-use plastics and then recycle them by burning them up in the local power plant to provide us electricity.
Yeah, hey, go for it.
That's what I think. But nowadays we can't do that kind of stuff because somebody cries about it.
Yeah, everyone's got feelings that get hurt.
Yeah.
When it comes down to some things. Let's see, what else do you have on the agenda list?
Well, there's this really amazing story from one of the airplane manufacturers, Northrop Grumman, and they've finally flown their big strato-launch airplane. Now, this airplane is massive. The wingspan on it is the length of a football field. It has 2 fuselages, and the idea behind it is that they're going to use this to launch a rocket into space. The idea being that the higher you get off the ground, the less thrust you need to get a rocket up into space. Now, the U.S. Air Force has done some of these kind of tests before. They have a missile that they've tested several times that they've launched off. I believe it was F-15 aircraft. It was actually an anti-satellite weapon, and they've launched it. So they've been testing these kind of designs for a while. And this plane is just massive. Has can go up to 175 miles per hour, and it gets up to about 15,000 feet. And at that point, it'll launch this spaceship the spaceship kind of rides between the fuselages, and then it will put smaller payloads up into space. It's supposed to save I don't know how much money, but it's supposed to save a lot of money by launching from 15,000 feet and at about 170 miles an hour. It's supposed to save a lot of fuel and a lot of money to get small satellites up into space. So I think
this is going to be just like when you had those big, I don't know, Boeing planes that had the old space shuttle design on top of them, and they just fly up, and the space shuttle would kind of like detach and glide, and then
the space shuttle never did that. It did detach from the Boeing 747 once to do a test, but they never launched it into space off an air.
Dude, when I was in elementary school, in Miss Molinex's 4th grade class, 2 things I remember always seeing on the smart boards were Obama's inauguration and then the space shuttle stuff. We'd always watch these videos and pictures and stuff with the shuttle on the back of the Boeing 747. I just knew it was Boeing because, whatever. And then it would plane would detach from it and this thing would glide. And next thing we know, we'd see a picture of it docking with the ISS. Well, so you're saying it's propaganda. Public school taught me wrong again.
Well, there's certainly bad editing going on there, or you and your brain were just merging something together that you shouldn't merge together. There was flight tests of the original space shuttle where they would fly it up on the Boeing 747 that they had, made specially to transport the space shuttle, and it would detach, and they would test its glide slope and landing abilities and such. They did this at least once. It might have been 2 or 3 times. I'd have to look it up to check. The rest of the time, when it's docking with the International Space Station, is because it was launched on the back of a rocket. The 2 rocket motors and the big fuel tank that excuse me, we're accustomed to seeing. So that's how it got into space.
Okay, but the general concept for what I was saying, that's what this is supposed to do, is the shuttle or whatever thing we're going to have in the next decade for launching into space will be strapped to it, get up to a certain altitude, detaches, and that thing just bada bing, bada boom, it's in the stratosphere.
Supposed to get up to 35,000 feet. I guess this test flight was 15,000. But the plane itself is supposed to get up to 35,000 feet, which is approximately 7 miles in the air. And then it'll drop this missile from in between the two fuselages. And then the missile, it's a Pegasus XL rocket, is what this missile is being called. Again, made by Northrop Grumman. It'll drop from the fuselage, the rocket motors will engage, and then it'll go up into space and, put small satellites into space. I'm not sure how big of satellites this will be able to do, but one would assume it'd probably be a couple 100 pounds or so.
What was the flying altitude for the SR-71?
Well, unclassified, it was 90,000 plus feet.
Okay, so about twice that of what this thing's supposed to be gliding at.
Well, twice, more like 3 times.
Oh,
but
yeah. Well, it's 3. 33 is the magic number.
You never were very good at math.
No, but I am getting a degree in business and accounting, and right now I'm in a stats class that I'm almost failing. So
D's get degrees.
Yeah, unless that D turns to an F, then it's get repeat that.
Yeah.
So I should just switch to psychology at this point.
No.
Come on. I mean, if I go into seminary, I'll get a bachelor's. When I walk out, it won't matter. I'm good with people. I got people skills.
You're
at least
good
what
with
mom's tells me.
You're good with something.
Yeah. I don't get this. I mean, I'm assuming this is our tax dollars paying for this, right?
Well, NASA is funding part of this, but
which is basically funded by the government.
NASA's entirely funded by the government.
Right.
But all of the things that
the moon landing didn't happen.
Whatever.
Bush did it.
All the things that you enjoy in life, from your computer to your cell phone to Velcro, came out of the space program. So it's one area the federal government investing in. I don't mind. So and the other part of this is that NASA is funding lots of things like SpaceX and everything Elon Musk is doing and such. And as they're funding all of this stuff, they're using individual entrepreneurs and to come up with better things. Like NASA for a long time, because the government's the only entity that had enough money to build the Saturn V rocket, was doing that. But the reality is that the private sector has a lot more brain power and is a lot more efficient, and they're actually making really good strides in space travel that NASA never could develop on its own. So this is really a good partnership between government and private industry. So I don't mind our tax dollars going to this, because at some point in time, I'm going to get some new gadget I can pick off a shell at Best Buy because of it.
A shell.
A shelf.
You said shell.
Did I say shell? Well, I meant to say shelf. But you never know. Best Buy could be coming up with shells that we're picking stuff up out of.
Yeah, I would know. I guess. I don't know. I will. I don't know. I'm going to be working there at some point, I think. So.
Yeah, you never know.
Could be a good thing. But, okay, well, let's see. We got anything else?
Yeah, I found this really interesting story of, it's in the New York Post and some other things I've seen on YouTube videos, where they're dropping these dead alligator carcasses into the deep part of the sea. And there's these big, giant deep sea insects that are all pink. They look like the little roly-polies that you see when you pull a rock off of something. But they come out of nowhere and within 24 hours start eating these alligator carcasses. So it's really kind of interesting. And they're all pink because they're in the deep part of the Gulf of Mexico. They're all about football size. They call them flesh-eating isopods, and they're big crustaceans. But they eat these alligators up relatively quickly. And they really like the muscle, I guess, of an alligator. I've never had alligator, so I don't know what it tastes like.
It tastes like snake.
No, I thought it would taste like chicken.
They taste like chicken.
So one of the doctors who's studying all of this stuff says they'll eat so much that they basically become immobile or stupefied in their actions, and so that they may just be the fact that they've gorged themselves so much in an effort to get this rare research that they actually, inhibit themselves from proper locomotion. So they eat so much
binge eating.
Yeah. So they eat so much alligator that once they get to a certain level, they kind of just like keel over and just lay there, kind of like a Thanksgiving Day coma that us in America experiences after we're done eating about 5,000 calories on Thanksgiving Day.
Who decided that this was? Let's do this. Hey guys, you know what? I accidentally shot this gator in my backyard. I need to get rid of it. You know any way I could do that? And they're like, yeah, get on my boat. And they just drop it in the middle of the ocean, and hey, let's make sure no one can find this thing. And they're like, oh, look at these cool pink things. And then they just made up some cover story.
Well, part of this is that scientists are trying to find all the animals and catalog them around the earth. And I don't know if they had never dropped these alligator carcasses down to the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico, if anybody would have ever seen these big roly-poly crustacean things, the binge eaters that they are.
Yeah, well, I don't really want to see them again. They make me feel uncomfortable. They're pink because, like you said, they've never seen the light of day. I don't like that. They look funky to me. They look stupid.
Well, a lot of the deep-sea creatures are that way.
Yeah, but I don't want to go in the deep sea. That's a place
clear.
that humans should not go. If my head can be crushed without anything touching me but water, it's a no-go, man. You don't go there. You're going to die. There's a reason you don't go to the Mariana Trench, because you're going to die.
But you drive a Honda Fit. If you get hit by a...
Hey, it gets good gas mileage, okay? It's a hatchback.
If you get hit by a scooter, you're going to die.
No,
and your head will probably get crushed.
I would be injured, yes. I would not die because of the scooter. The scooter would die because he would fly up and hit my tiny windshield, or, when he hits me, he might actually just slide right over the very smooth aerodynamic form that is my car and just hit the pavement behind me.
Your car's held together with stickers.
No, just the front bumper, okay? That does not count as held together. I have super glue for the rear fenders, yes, but there are lots of rivets holding it together. It's not just stickers, okay? And they're nice stickers. They look cool. They're very JDM.
They are very nice stickers. I will admit to that, because a couple of them are Spider-Man.
Yeah, I made sure to take out all the offensive ones.
Well, we all appreciate that.
Yeah, but now I just have a big box of a bunch of weed stickers in my room that I don't know what to do with.
Well, I'm sure you could go down to the local Green Cross pharmacy and get rid of them for pretty cheap.
Yeah, no, hey, you know what? That's a good way of making money. Go over to the Illinois side and just go to a pot shop.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's about it for today. I'm the old guy.
And I am the Manchild, the one and only Generation Zoomer on this podcast.
We're reminded you, don't fall up the down elevator this week.
And just remember, if I don't make it back, you made me come here.
God bless you, and we'll see you next time.
Deuces.